I love you. You belong to me.
No. People don't belong to people.
Of course they do.
I'm not gonna let anyone put me in a cage. What, do you think you own me?
That's exactly what I think.
I know, that's what everybody always thinks, but everybody happens to be wrong.
Greetings, guest. Welcome to The Patriarchy, where we explore cinema classics fueled by predictive Hollywood programming and unpack how our favorite characters in cinema got egg all over their faces. I am your commentator, Dom, and tonight we're unpacking Breakfast at Tiffany's. Breakfast at Tiffany's is a classic Hollywood romantic comedy, and it can be debated for ages as to why this film is so beloved. Unpopular opinion, I personally did not enjoy this storyline all that much, and in fact, I had never seen this movie all the way through to its end until very recently. Yet, I have always been enchanted with the iconography that resulted from this picture. Was it because of the fashion, the jewelry, the parties? Was it Audrey? Or, well, was it the high society prestige that surrounds the movie's true central character, which is Tiffany's, of course?
You were a darling to help. I could never have done it without you.
But this film, which debuted in 1961, was supposed to showcase the antithesis of the traditional conformed woman of that time. It's the dawn of the modern woman. It's showing a young woman breaking barriers. She belongs to no man. Her apartment's not together. She feels no need to make it home. She throws parties as she pleases. The character of Holly is written to be quite dainty but independent, quite charming but still elusive, and most importantly, hard to pin down. This film was about a young woman, Holly, formerly Lula Mae Golightly, whom deeply does not want to be put into a box, which is what many women were at that time, put into a box, as described by Sam Wasson, the author of Fifth Avenue 5 a.m., which is a great read if you are interested in how this movie came to be. Sam writes, in 1951, when Audrey was off shooting Monte Carlo Baby, 1/3 of the nation's 19-year-old girls had found husbands. And those husbands, many of them veterans racked with battle fatigue, had taken too long to get home. Now that they had, their brides were pulled out of the workforce and sent back into the kitchen, where they were meant to be, or afraid to become anything other than mothers and wives. To keep the order, gender lines, formerly blurred, had to be reinstated, and the American woman found herself alone at the sink, wondering how it all happened. Why did getting what she wished for suddenly feel so wrong? That is so bleak, but yes, knowing the reality of many American women from that time, Breakfast at Tiffany's was meant to showcase the break from that and give a glimpse into the life of an independent, self-proclaimed wild thing who couldn't be captured.
I love you, Lula Mae.
I know you do, and that's just the trouble. It's a mistake you always made, Doc, trying to love a wild thing.
And for a movie whose premise is about a 19-year-old girl fleeing the bondage of a life she doesn't relate to, a marriage she doesn't want to be in, and kids that she doesn't want to care for, and simply wants to live as the free-spirited fashionista queen in New York City that she is, in the end of the film, it appears that she winds up succumbing to the status quo anyway. Let's begin with a review of the plot, and then I'll end with why, when I finally saw the ending after several watches, I was vehemently disappointed at the thought that Holly caved in for a struggling writer who reminded her of her brother instead of jetting off to Brazil. The film opens up with main character Holly Golightly, played by Audrey Hepburn, strolling down Fifth Avenue at dawn, window shopping with a cup of coffee and a pastry in hand as she admires the jewels in the windows of Tiffany's from the empty streets of New York. On the surface, one might think that Holly simply enjoys the finer things, but not too long after this stroll, she delivers a monologue about why she's just crazy about Tiffany's.
I'm crazy about Tiffany's.
And to much surprise, it's not because of the sparkling jewels, but because in her mind, she feels safe at Tiffany's because it's quiet and proud and makes her feel like nothing bad could ever happen to her there.
Calms me down right away. The quietness and the proud look of it. Nothing very bad could happen to you there.
The character of Holly is that of a delightful and whimsical young woman, and she has many suitors. She has no issues attracting wealthy men, has a knack for charmingly turning away what she doesn't want while cunningly going after what she does. Her new neighbor, a struggling writer named Paul, whom she sincerely refers to as Fred due to his likeness to her brother, is a sweet and gentle guy, one of the less problematic characters that I reviewed, and falls subtly and rather respectfully for Holly as the plot presses on. But I couldn't help but feel that Paul's affection for Holly was rooted in him thinking that she needed to be saved. Now, this is my opinion, and I could be totally wrong about this, but early in the film, he started to write a piece about Holly, which he titled My Friend, in which he described her as a very lonely, very frightened girl who lived alone except for a nameless cat. He described her as a cat lady, y'all. She lives alone with a cat, yes, but Holly never seemed lonely in the film to me, and she also never seemed frightened. As written in Fifth Avenue 5 a.m., author Truman Capote wrote Holly to be unlike any other woman that he'd ever met. She said what she wanted, did what she wanted to do, and unlike the Swans, outright refused to get married and settle down. He also described her character as a high-class call girl and an American geisha. Someone with fear in their hearts does not leave the familiarity for the unknown. It was rather brave of her to find her way from Texas to New York to realize her best and actual self. The only exception that I could think of during the film where I felt her loneliness was when she discovered that her brother had died. But other than that, her character was obviously playful, charismatic, friendly, and a bit aloof, but never a lonely, frightened little girl as Paul saw her. So I also felt some kind of way about Paul easily giving her up to some strange man who called himself her husband. But after that matter was settled and he learns that the marriage was annulled, the film does a great job of cementing those patriarchal norms that Holly's character is trying to break free from.
You're crazy.
What, do you think you own me?
That's exactly what I think.
I know, that's what everybody always thinks, but everybody happens to be wrong.
Well, I am not everybody.
Simply because Holly and Paul spent a lot of time together and he's grown to love her, Paul now thinks that Holly belongs to her. He says this multiple times over in the film, and synonyms for belong are possess, own, hold.
What a slob without a name. The way I look at it, I don't have the right to give him one. We don't belong to each other, we just took up by the river one day.
And if he knows that Holly rejects this notion of owning or belonging to others, why does he push this? Why does he continue to express his feelings for her in this way?
I love you. You belong to me.
No, people don't belong to people.
Of course they do.
I'm not gonna let anyone put me in a cage.
In summary, the ending isn't an explicit one, it's more so implied. Instead of jetting off to Brazil and marrying into riches, the film closes with her finding the cat whom she at one point claimed didn't belong to her, then a passionate kiss with struggling writer Paul turned flame, and a very important detail. On her ring finger, she's wearing the engraved Cracker Jack box ring that Paul had engraved at Tiffany's. It's screaming conformity to me, and perhaps not conforming in the traditional sense of Holly Golightly turning into some housewife and doing dishes alone by herself at the sink with a baby in the oven, but still conforming to the idea that she, woman, belongs to a man. She concedes, and not even to the type of man that she'd been seeking throughout the entire film.
But it turns out not only is he handsome and wildly rich, he's absolutely cuckoo for me.
You're crazy.
Which was a rich man who could take care of her.
I want you to mail me a list of the 50 richest men in Brazil. The 50 richest!
It was clear that her goal was to marry well, if she was to marry at all, and this is why she fled from her former horse farmer ex-husband in Texas to New York to ensure that she and her brother would be taken care of. She was looking for resources, only seeking to engage with rich men for their money. That's a much more detached way of living than betrothing yourself to someone for love. I'm curious as to what you all think about this ending and why this movie just had to end with her belonging to someone. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and as always, thank you for watching. Signing off now, your friend, Dom.